Just a very quick intro about what I'm representing here. I'm de facto representing the investor, investors, owners, including all the surroundings of it with the analysts and the investment bankers and the financial institutions. That, of course, are involved in the investment arena of hotels, resorts, and wellness, and I'm going to articulate as to what wellness and spa, how it featured into those investments and what is the way forward. I happen to have a slant, I happen to have a passion of advocacy of the wellness industry and a specific interest in the spas, whereas it's perhaps in contrast to a lot of hospitality investors where they don't quite get what we're talking about in the depth that perhaps I can share with you and learn from you. I'll just also qualify the fact that investment in applications or side services that support the wellness industry are not really my expertise area. My expertise area really is in wherever there's the underlying real estate element, like hotels, resorts, destination wellness, and the derivatives. So I'd like to start a little bit with the hardcore investment matters and then move a little bit, as I was instructed, to Back to the Future, as to where this industry, as far as from my viewpoint, will go to, and what we as the industry need to react to in order to attract the right investment at the right time, which is a very slow process, to be very frank, or has been so far. When we look at the hotel and resort industry today, honestly, before the 80s, we've heard historians, we've heard the history of the turn of the century, and then there were destination spas, there were destination wellness institutions, but the spas and hotels were really not very friendly until the 80s. And then all of a sudden we started to find this ubiquitous thing called spa in hotels. It started with conversions of some back of house space in the basement. Later on, it started to become much more recognized and much more standalone element within the hotel and a fundamental offering within a typically more in the leisure sector, but including city hotels, a very prominent part of the offering. Through that very fast development, really, between the 80s and now, we've seen a cycle that this became a ubiquitous, and it became, you have no way other than to build a spa type of a formula without really asking why, but because that was the trend and everybody wanted it and you had to have one, and therefore architects had to design it, operators had to accept it, and investors had to invest in it without really understanding whether there's a real business proposition there or why this was like a business center. Business centers in hotels came and went. In the 80s, we were building business centers in hotels. You know, there were people, computers, fax machines, et cetera, helping people execute their business matters. And today, it's all in one touch. So now we sort of crossed that. We don't build business centers anymore. The whole hotel is a business center. I'll get to the future later about spas. There may be a bit of a connotation. But slowly, what we're seeing is that investors have looked at spa P&Ls and saw that there were not great returns as a standalone business. Unfortunately, narrow-looking investors, and there's no shortage of them, look at every single piece in an institution, in a hotel or a resort environment, this restaurant, that restaurant, the spa, the wellness center, and look at them all as profit centers. Fine. And at any given time, when they don't see that a particular element is not profit-making, they start getting under pressure, under question, without really understanding the total impact of each item in that formula and the synergies between them and the symbiosis between them. Now, without appreciating all that, honestly, you shouldn't be doing a hotel feasibility, or you shouldn't be actually formulating a hotel or writing a design brief. And we feel that a total experience that a guest has, and I'm now a little bit slanting towards the leisure, but within a resort, includes everything from the reception to the bathroom, to the bed, to the spa, to the beach, to the shower, to the water sports, or whatever it is. And if you don't look at a P&L as a total offering, you're not going to have a successful venture, and I can assure you there. What we have seen is hotel operators don't understand this. I'm sure we have friends here, and we do a lot of business with hotel operators. We live with them day to day, but I really don't think they understand that integrity, and they don't understand wellness well enough. And however, recognizing the fact that this is a trend and this is an element that hotels should have, they've grown to live with it, some of them better than others, of course. And they said, oh, we can do spas. Yes, we can manage spas. We can, like they used to say, we can manage food and beverage. What happened? Now, I think now in the 21st century, we're accepting that hotels actually are not really delivering food and beverage that much, and specialists are delivering food and beverage when we're talking success. So operators refused to accept specialists in. They wanted to be that themselves, and some were managed, but by and large, especially in the large systems, we don't have proper understanding of wellness, proper understanding of spas. I was very pleased to hear that there's a new trend now. One of our members, the board members here, was head of spas of a company, and that company has now changed the title into a wellness director. That does not mean that this is focusing on the spas, but also this focusing on the total hotel and how wellness can be integrated into the total hotel, and they are now putting specialists into that arena. That's a fantastic development. But when we look at a spa P&L, we often see very close to break-even things within hotels, I mean, especially if you're going to add some undistributed department cost into it, it may even look negative. However, when you go a little bit further and go to 10,000 feet to look at the picture, you're seeing that the spa has brought a huge element of new segmentation into the hotel, has changed the profile of the average length of stay, has changed the profile of spend per person, and changed the profile of the feel-good factor that a guest actually on departure has felt, and securing repeat clientele. Now, when you actually inject that element into it, the P&L actually turns. And I have seen hotels very often carried by a loss-making spa. And if I took that loss-making element out of that spa, that hotel would collapse. So, so we've seen that. Now, what is the investment money looking for? Investment money is looking for return on investment, fine. And what are the parameters? I was told to throw some numbers, but of course numbers in real estate underlying asset business is very much contingent on the location, very much contingent on the economic environment within which it's going to exist. So country to country, region to region, it makes a difference. But barring country risk elements, you're looking at hopeful IRR returns of 18%, 16%, 17% are pretty happy mediums. Very hopeful ones go to 20 pluses, etc. Rarely find it. And rarely below the 10% IRR levels would that induce a very interesting dialogue with any investor. But at those levels, now investors who are somewhat experienced in building hotels or buying hotels, having owned hotels for a while, are now looking for something else. And this is going to be the core of what I want to tell you today. And at the end, I'll just finish with a few words on Back to the Future. What they're looking for is that, okay, I'm building a spa, but the spa isn't enough anymore. The spa needs to have an argument. The spa needs to deliver something. A feel-good factor spa is not going to be enough. Now, this is a complete spectrum between an implanted spa in a hotel or resort environment all the way to a destination wellness. And believe me, that investors' attention is there right now. A lot of them are looking to build wellness-oriented destination resorts. Whether you call them wellness resort, whether you call them a spa resort, I don't know the name, but this is what they want to build. They have seen the trend, they have seen that the public needs it and wants it, but there's a problem. We have the cash, we have the intent, and there's no shortage of land, labor, capital in order to put that together. We have a shortage in know-how. Now, in this conference, when I look at this conference and all the attendees and take, looking at an Excel sheet, you can sometimes take a complete total of the page. When I take a total of the page here, the amount of leadership, amount of know-how, amount of depth of know-how, and the sophistication there is incredible. What has not happened is to formulate this and package it into an institutionalized, systemized pill that an investor can swallow. So that is unlike the hospitality industry. In the hospitality industry, we go to the supermarket and buy a management. Marriott, nah, as I'd say, I'll take Hilton. No, it's okay. Let's, we shop around. There are huge supermarkets where you can buy brands, management, distribution, marketing and sales, recognition, PR, all in a pill, and where are we? Why are we leaving Sue completely alone in this arena? Now, ESPA has revolutionized the industry by saying that, yes, it can be scalable. Yes, it can be an ethos that can be transported from country to country, destination to destination. And not only that, but also typology-wise, it can kind of adapt itself and still maintain a set of standards and a promise that is recognized, A, by the consumer, B, by the investment community. So that has happened with spas, has not happened with integrative medicine or integrative wellness. And this is where the big gap today is. Investment money is there, land, labor, capital is there, the desire is there, but as an investment advisor, when we're sitting at a thing, this investor comes to us and says, build me this. We said, okay, we know how to do it architecturally, we know how to do it even technologically, but when the day comes that who is our operating partner, who is our know-how partner, who is going to do the entire delivery of the promise, entire transformational experience, and support it with its own PR, distribution, and recognition, we tell the investor that, hey, listen, success stories in this section has been individual. We're talking about Austria, we're talking about Germany, we're talking about these great wellness temples or preventive medical centers. Huge success stories based on the brilliance of a man or a family or an institution, all standalone, a collection of standalones. And we as an industry, or you as an industry, and I feel a part of you, so I say we, have not been able to replicate and create a scalable version of integrative wellness. Now, this is our new challenge, and I think if we are able to bring in what now customers require, way much more than pampering and a feel-good factor, but also to complement their newly achieved leadership in their own wellness. I think this is a key issue. This arena here, this forum here is a leader of this industry. As leaders of this industry, I think we need to recognize the fact that the actual leader in person's wellness is becoming increasingly himself or herself. So self-leadership needs to be complemented by this industry, and this industry needs to create the forum, the underlying facilitator for such leadership to take shape and form as soon as they touch the institution, they touch the destination. Otherwise, we're not going to impose on anybody any kind of wellness. We're not going to impose on anybody any type of technology. Good or bad, people are getting increasingly aware, increasingly cognizant of what wellness is all about and interpret it in their own way, and we need to partner with them. Now, in order to do that, there's a transformational element that is expected of us, much further than just the feel-good factor, and what has so far become the ubiquitous spa over the last 20 to 30 years of the touch, the massage treatment, the heat treatment, relaxation, etc. But there needs to be a transformational aha factor, and it doesn't need to be uniform. Every single spa may have its own aha factor, specialist transformational experience. It can't be everything to everyone, but this integration and this argument is mandatory. And if we can combine this with an institutionalized packaged pill that management, delivery of the promise, brand recognition, distribution, marketing can be delivered to an investor, we have a huge winner because there's enormous amount of capital waiting to be spent. And they do realize that there's a huge trend towards this. And that's where we're missing because we can't deliver them the management function or the operating module into the equation. Now, that is one observation, and we're actually quite frustrated because there's a lot of investment money and there's a lot of efforts which does not meet with the right know-how partner. And that creates an enormous opportunity for us all here. So what happens is that you go and knock the door of Ivan or you knock the door of Shiva's home. Why don't you come to North Africa? And they say, where? It's not yet scalable. It's not yet traveling. So this is the underlying message. Now, taking us further, I think Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the pyramid was an individual pyramid that actually resonated with people's needs. What I'm finding is that the world is changing the pyramid. And actually, and luckily, bar exceptions, but the general dynamic in terms of trend is that the bottom of the pyramid is being eroded and the needs are rising towards the higher end of the pyramid. And that's what the world is looking like. And therefore, we're now going to talk about individual hierarchy of needs within a narrower pyramid that actually takes care of the higher needs increasingly. And I think this is an exponential direction where people's needs are getting more and more and more sophisticated into the higher echelons of the needs, all the way to self-realization, self-actualization. And I think we are the prime candidates as the wellness industry to understand that and deliver that into their hands. Where I see the gap is that against that backdrop of a narrow pyramid and against the backdrop of all what we have heard over the last 2 days about the mental state, the spiritual state, the mind, being one of the most important underlying elements of wellness. I think those two match perfectly. The individual is asking for it. We're preaching that that is the fundamental wellness element. How are we delivering it? We're not. They go to ashrams. They go to ashrams in the Himalayas. They go and seek gurus somewhere. And this is not scalable. And I think there's got to be a way where the curator is this industry, the curator of the guru, the curator of whoever and whatever is going to create the mindset, whoever is going to elevate, whoever is going to create the positive energy. Now, perhaps this is a little esoteric coming from an investment person, but it is, I think, without realizing the underlying, it's very difficult to invest. The minute that this industry produces what the trends are, I think We have no worries about institutional cash, high net worth cash, all the way to trophy cash in terms of investing into our industry. And this is going to be an enormous growth industry. Going now purely anecdotal, my time is out. But very anecdotally, I just want to just give you a few spots of irrelevant to the investment side of things, predictions about the future. I see this very cautious flirtation going on between medicine and spa. And this cautious flirtation actually is now getting a little bit more into the courtship arena, which is nice to hear and nice to see. But I think the future is totally to do with the merger. And that merger of science, medicine, alternative medicine, and wellness is going to be the only way forward. And guess what? We're talking about the future. We've had a brief expose of history, but I'm going to take you a little bit back. Asclepion. I don't know if any of you, I know you haven't been there because you weren't there, because it was about 2,500 years ago. But Asclepion was the temple of healing. There was no hospitals, there was no science, there was no real medicine as such. There were individuals, there were some sorts of healing, but this was probably the earliest fully fledged destination as a temple of wellness. Now, and this was not really to go there for a feel-good factor or preventive medicine. You can trust me in that. That was all to do with response to ailment, response to disease, or trauma. And I just looked at a few of the items that was on offer to heal. Massage, herbal treatments, mud bath, bathing, drinking waters, sleep therapy, dream therapy, I'm going to get to that in a sec, and music. Now, Asclepion and this doctor called Galen, doctor, I don't know what he was, but the equivalent of a doctor, Galen, was inducing certain types of dream during the sleep so that actually you wake up with a positive attitude in the morning, because they realized the importance of positive attitude and into the wellness, and then treat it. And we're talking about treating traumas as in gladiators being mutilated in Rome were being sent there. Now, this was total integration. Of course, there was also attempts to sort of cut the abdomen and remove any foreign objects and things like that. So it was a total integration. It was a totally integrated wellness destination. And I'm not saying that this is going to be fully medically integrated in the future, but an integrative environment where, just barring major trauma and major incurable diseases, just take those out, a huge element of wellness is going to be actually in the hands of this room. And that's the future take. And another future take that I think is that the words data Buddhism was mentioned, which resonates very well with my thinking that the individual leadership in wellness and the narrowness of the hierarchy of needs resonates very well. And that, I think, also is going to translate into like the shared working spaces like WeWork. I think we may start seeing certain things like WeSpa and sort of a shared and connectivity-induced wellness centers as well. Unfortunately, I haven't got much more time. I would love to answer any questions if there is. And thank you for listening to me, and all the best.
Omer, before we let you go, you have evoked the curiosity of one of our other panelists, Neil from Sixth Senses. He wanted to ask you just a quick question, as approved by Susie Ellis, so don't get mad at me, Nancy.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Two greats.
Good.
You know, you can use mine.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm kind of intrigued, though, by some of what
You'll have to talk closer to my ear.
Sorry. I'm kind of intrigued by.
Oh, there's the mic over here. The things we must do.
By what you're saying about investment community and appetite from investment community and so on. Firstly, I think there are people out there today that can offer a scalable product. I mean, we look at what Canyon Ranch is doing in various sectors, not only in Tucson or the Berkshires, but on ships and other things they're doing. We were on a panel yesterday with Lanzerhoff, who have all kinds of opportunities should they wish to do it. So, I mean, they can scale it, they can do multiple. Ourselves, we're doing everything you talked about. But I think where I would kind of take issue with you is the expectation is from what you were saying, from the investment community, is that it be us that change. Be us that kind of sharpen our pencils, start to better understand balance sheets and flow through and all the things the financial community is looking at. But I really believe, and perhaps you'll never get a Qatari DR or a China Investment Corporation or the big institutional money kind of coming into what we do. But I really think it's the investment community that needs to change.
100%.
Because to say, do this, do that, change, it's just about the IRR. And frankly, I think an 18% IRR is too low. But aside from that, unless there's some kind of leap of faith into what we're doing, and the coming from the investment group, whether it be a high net worth or a family office or a Citigroup club of investors or whatever, there has to be the right coming from. Because if they're not believing and genuinely believing in what we're doing and how we're evolving and how we're advancing, and you've heard all that in the last 2 days. I mean, we're doing more and more and more. It cannot just be about return on investment. It cannot. It has to be a buy-in to everything that we're doing, and there has to be some kind of leap of faith, I think. And the big institutions won't do it, but there are plenty of people out there that will do it. If it comes from the right place, the money will be made. And the expertise is growing exponentially all the time.
Right. Very good. Let me quickly answer that. First of all, I agree 100%, and that is what I was saying, was the investment community doesn't get it. And we have a job to educate them, and that's part of what we do, to understand what the underlying is and what they're investing into. Otherwise, they look at numbers. And I do agree 100% that they should be looking for a broader picture rather than just pure ROI. However, scalability is still nowhere. I mean, what you're doing is still, when you look at the globe and when you compare it to the hospitality world, for example, minuscule in terms of choices, in terms of numbers, in terms of scale. Whereas the potential, what I was trying to say is that the potential is much greater, particularly in wellness destinations, and that is where we're still missing the scale. Otherwise, yes, there are success stories, but these are, when you compare it to the, when I was saying supermarket of brands operators selection in the hospitality sector, in contrast to that in the spa and wellness, we don't have that. It's too minute. We should be much wider, and I think we should get there.
Which means that we have an opportunity for collaboration right here between the investment community and, spa and operators. But I will just say that, and this is why I wanted to have Omar speak. I am so thrilled to hear this. We would never have heard what you said 10 years ago. We were fighting for people to understand that, if the spa isn't hugely profitable, we're still contributing. And for you to say that, I mean, that is a huge, huge thing. So I'm very optimistic that we can work this out. There's a lot of smart people. But thank you for sort of making it clear what you see as the vacuum. Mm-hmm. So we'll work together. That's part of what the summit is about, and I'll help. And we'll have some meetings, and we'll figure this out. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.